The original Titanfall has been done dirty by the passage of time. Not that anyone should be surprised a full-price, multiplayer-only shooter console exclusive to the Xbox One was considered a failure, but what does bewilder me is the fact that the PC version is now entirely unplayable. I know that word gets thrown around a whole lot these days when balance is called into question or cheaters run rampant, but it's rare one uses it in the literal sense rather than a figurative one, by which I mean the central PC servers have been incapacitated by a bad actor, and as a multiplayer-only, always online title, the game is unable to load past the main menu, a fact that came as a surprise to me, a paying customer, as it's still available on online storefronts. So far, the only official acknowledgement of the situation have been a pair of tweets from developer Respawn, but these problems are so pervasive and tweets so vague, I don't know if they're referring to Titanfall 1 or a completely different set of issues plaguing Titanfall 2, where a rogue player is obsessively targeting streamers by overloading game lobbies, which eventually ends the match for everybody. It's been a month since the last tweet, and neither problem has been addressed since, by the way. I think it's fair to say both of these games have been pretty much entirely abandoned by Respawn in favor of their golden goose Apex Legends, a title far more popular and lucrative than either Titanfall game ever was. This has widely been criticized as a dumb shit, idiot move because those two games bang extremely hard. Fortunately, most of us aren't Twitch famous and can usually play Titanfall 2 in peace, and there's more than enough players online at a given moment that finding a match doesn't take longer than a minute or two. Much less can be said about the original Titanfall, a game I paid $6 for and still haven't gotten to play. So I took the reasonable course of action and bought a copy for my Xbox. Of course, it's been a while since I played a shooter on console, so the first hurdle to overcome is the controller itself. A jack of all trades, but master of quick, precise aiming it is not. Using the analog stick feels more like suggesting your crosshair move rather than guiding it, at least it does to my Adderall-fueled PC gamer brain, and I can't air strafe the way I can with a keyboard and mouse, a technique for controlling movement in the air. Second, the field of view is locked to a paltry 60 degrees, where I normally play anywhere from 90 all the way to 110 if the game allows it, and Titanfall 2 does. The objective benefit of a higher FOV setting is increased awareness gained by simply seeing more of the battlefield, but it also impacts how you perceive speed. Simply put, the higher your field of view, the faster it seems you're moving. Now, I've heard Titanfall is overall a faster game than its sequel, but these two facts put it at an immeasurable speed disadvantage for me. I decided to test the running speed between the two games on a map that appears in both, and characters in each seem to move about the same speed, regardless of how faster it looks like you move in Titanfall 2 with a higher field of view. Maybe accelerating is faster in the original, but the introduction of the slide in TF2 was like when they added the manual to Pro Skater. It's so ubiquitous to every facet of play, it's awkward and kinda clunky going back to the one that doesn't have it. Moving on, the main selling point of the game is, well, probably the robots, but what sets it apart from its sequel is the campaign that exists entirely within the multiplayer, meaning you actually need to queue up for a lobby, wait for people to join, and load into a match. It also meant the budget that would normally go towards fleshing out an entire single-player story mode went to the multiplayer instead. Remember, this was still a full-price game, and the first I remember playing with these slick animations for loading into battle. It's commonplace among big-budget shooters now, but standard practice at the time was to simply load players into predetermined locations with a countdown timer. Here, you begin on the main deck of a spaceship, watching destruction unfold upon this planet before being dropped right into the middle of it. God damn, that is one way to start a campaign. You've got AI grunts and robots already fighting across the battlefield while a commanding officer chimes in to detail your objective.
Hold the hardpoint so we can shut down the reactor core before the militia can trigger a meltdown.
I'm on the IMC team, and I think we're using this facility to manufacture space robots to help fight this war, and the other team is trying to cause a core meltdown to destroy it. Having all this context and people already fighting, even if it's just a clone of the capture and hold game mode that exists in every single multiplayer shooter ever, being told that you're preventing a core meltdown does a lot to help frame it as more than 12 idiots playing an 8-year-old Xbox game. Throughout the match, these short scenes play out in the top right of your HUD, and I don't know what's really going on. I know this guy from Titanfall 2, but it doesn't help that it plays out in the middle of a match. Other players seem to just keep going, probably because they've already played through it, or maybe just don't care. So I either have to hunker down and watch the cutscene, or ignore it and keep playing. Sometimes I get so into into it, I don't even notice a cutscene started, because there's not a lot differentiating them from the typical
"Be advised, Titan ready in 30 seconds.
messages, so it's easy to mentally block them out when you're in the middle of a gunfight, and it leads to the story not really making any sense. The next mission, Made Men, opens up with a flyover of the map, and dropping in to see these robots overtaking an enemy Titan. Scripted events like this aren't really something you see in multiplayer shooters, even today, and again, does a fantastic job of contextualizing the combat. Here we need to recapture these points to reactivate the space bots in storage, because I guess they gotta warm up first. It's a little flimsier than the context the last mission gave us, and I'm still not really sure what's going on. All I know 2 missions in is what I already did from Titanfall 2 and Apex Legends. People keep dying and getting betrayed and giving monologues all around me, but I can't really pay attention because I'm trying to keep this kill streak going. When we lose this match, the militia succeeds and blows up the entire planet. Mission 3 takes a bold narrative move by forgetting about that entirely and presenting a small raid on a refueling depot. This is the point where I was so confused I just turned to Google to understand what was going on, and it turns out the first 2 missions I played are actually the last 2 in the campaign. Despite the fact this game has NPC grunts, robots, and occasionally even Titans, there's no computer pilots, so the game's gotta fill the match with other players. However, because that's limited to about 40, I just get thrown into the one I can connect best to. This wouldn't be the only issue I had with matchmaking either. To keep lobbies full, the game will combine smaller groups of players, forcing one half to start off from where the other half left off. There's 2 missions left in the campaign I still haven't gotten to play yet because of it, but to be honest, I've got a pretty good idea of how they're gonna go, and I don't think I'm missing out on too much. The campaign is a very interesting idea, and even now I can't really think of anything quite like it, and I'd love for it to be playable on a more accessible platform because it's run into the issue that exactly everyone saw coming, that much of the game is either irrelevant or entirely unplayable due to a waning player base on last-gen hardware 8 years later. If we wander outside of the campaign playlist, we have access to a much wider combination of maps and modes, but the only populated playlist is Attrition. Fittingly named, it's this game's version of Team Deathmatch, but the large maps would feel somewhat desolate with a mere dozen pilots slowly whittling away at each other, so it fills the battlefield with the same AI grunts and robots from the campaign. They're a fantastic addition to ensure everyone, even new players, are able to contribute to the objective, and running through a crowd of them really helps drive that mech suit power fantasy. In Attrition, they're only worth a single point each, pilots 5 and Titans 10. It's one of the many twists Titanfall makes on a formula done 100 times over that distinguishes it from the competition. Titans and pilots having such juxtaposed gameplay yet existing in the same space, and a kind of flimsy but still fun campaign make this game worth revisiting if you're a fan of Titanfall 2 or the jetpack Call of Duties. It's fun, and I paid $6 for it. If that's not good enough reason for the PC version to be playable, I don't know what is.